Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman who is ready to stop performing and reclaim her voice. I'm your host, Celeste, and around here, we don't do surface level. We go deep. Each week, we'll explore concepts like self-discovery, radical honesty, and the kind of healing that rewrites your story from the inside out. This is a space for truth-telling, for remembering who you are, and for coming home to yourself, louder, braver, and more radiant than ever. So come as you are, and let's do this together. Let's begin. Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, and I am your host, Celeste. And today, we are stepping into a conversation that every woman needs to have at least once in her life. The moment you realize you've abandoned yourself, and the moment you decide that you're done doing it and you're going to take action. My guest today is Shauna Hawkes, a woman's embodiment mentor, yoga teacher of 15 years, social worker, NLP practitioner, EFT practitioner, and Gene Keys guide. Her work sits right at the intersection of nervous system regulation, embodiment, and self-trust. And what makes her story so powerful is that she didn't learn these tools from a book. She learned them while rebuilding herself from the inside out. Shauna spent years navigating trauma, people-pleasing, burnout, and the disconnection that so many women feel after becoming a mother. She abandoned her own needs for the sake of survival until that cost became too high. Her healing didn't come through perfection. It came through embodiment, through learning how to regulate, reclaim, soften, and trust the woman that she had long since learned how to silence. Her work now is about helping women return to themselves, not as a performance, but as a lived daily truth. So today we're going to talk about what that journey actually looks like. Let's dig in. Welcome, Shauna. Thanks so much for joining us on My Healing is Your Healing. So I am just going to jump right in here because I'm really excited about talking with you. I feel like every single one of my podcast guests come at the right time, like just for things that are happening in my life. And you just happen to be during the time where I am saying goodbye to self-abandonment. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Beautiful. I love that. Love how life does that for us.
Absolutely. So what I kind of really love to explore with people is that, we're handed this script from the time that we were born. And it depends on who is in our lives that ingrain it more and more into us, right? But how do you find that people are losing themselves, even through motherhood or like the survival mode that we're just kind of stuck in right now in 2025, right? And yeah, how do you find that, people are losing themselves?
I just don't think many people are actually aware and awake. And it requires consciousness. You've got to be conscious, and you've got to be a creator if you want to be awake. And we don't get taught how to do that in school. We're not taught that. We're told to memorize how to do maths and how to, write things in English. And there's no offense to the school system, but there's also not a lot on how do you work with money? How do you learn how to have positive thoughts? And what do you do if you're dealing with difficult situations and relationships? How do you take responsibility for that instead of pointing a finger? So that feels like the simplest way to say it is we're not taught how to be conscious. We're taught how to live out a program and listen to media or listen to the radio and listen to the teachers and follow exactly what they say and think that that's the law, and then build our life according to that.
And then eventually, once you've gone through all of that, you find yourself at a crossroad, which is what you focus on. Whereas like the person that you are and the outside world is just not matching. And you wind up having to reconcile or find yourself in that process.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always so curious, how many people what percent of people do you think actually find themselves and are able to go through that and are conscious and awake?
Oh, I mean, I would say like, I think it's changing. Okay.
Okay.
And I think this is beautiful. And I don't know if it's because I'm changing. And so now I'm seeing more awake people. And I go, oh, were the people always awake? And I just wasn't. So I didn't see them and I couldn't find them. Or are we actually waking up a little bit more? And I think it's a combination of both. But I do think we're becoming more aware as a society. And we're becoming more accepting, and consciousness is becoming more of a great conversation, and not taboo. You're not considered a hippie. You're not considered weird if you're talking about, plant medicines or things like that. It's like, oh, that's, we know about that, or consciousness, So, but I think, to be really honest with you, I think there's only probably 10% of the whole entire world that are consciously creating. And and consciousness takes awareness. You have to wake up and choose that, because if you don't choose creation and if you don't choose consciousness, you'll automatically go back into a paradigm that you learned growing up, or the things that you get fed. So I think that there has to be an activeness, and probably only 10% of the world are actually active in participating in their growth and development over a consistent period of time. I think everyone goes through periods where they'll do growth or they'll work with a coach and it's like, yay, yay, I feel good. And then they just go back into the systems. They don't stay conscious. They don't keep growing. And that doesn't mean that it has to be hard either. It can actually be quite easy to stay conscious, but that has to be the frame of mind that's front of mind, so that you don't drop back into the default patterns.
Absolutely. Yeah. You like everything that you're saying is just hitting me, right? Because I want to say probably 5 years ago, I worked with a couple different life coaches during COVID, right? Because everyone's world was ending as they knew it, and they were just kind of forced to go seek out something new. And then life stabilized again. And then you're like, okay, I'm okay. But you have to wind up hitting a certain place in your life where, like, I cannot live like this anymore. And you seek a way to change that life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what do you think is driving this like larger awakening? Is it the fact that we can actually go to therapy and have conversations about the fact that we go to therapy now because it wasn't a thing back in the 90s? Or what do you think it is?
Mm, don't know. I don't know, but I do know. I work a lot with the gene keys, and that is based on a little bit of astrology, and I mean, this is kind of a side note, but it's also connected at the same time. So just hang out with me for a second.
Absolutely.
But in the gene keys, it's talking about the 2026 being the year of the closing door, where the people who are not, many people are born unawake, like they just kind of take in the paradigms of their parents or the situations, and they take on their experiences and they believe that they're true, right? And then they don't go and do the work, or they come back, like you say, and they do the work later, and they're becoming awake later in their life. So I think more and more people are doing that. And I think, yes, therapists, but I also think it's a lot more widely accepted that people go to yoga, they do somatic work, they do that. There's such an expansion. There's kinesiology, there's acupuncture. So we're looking at a bunch of different systems that are now accepted. Okay. Now, in this idea of this closing door in the year of 2026, they say that, and of course, who knows if this is reality? I mean, we'll come back and listen to this podcast and we'll see, is this happening, right? But I think in 2027, they're talking about this new human coming online, where children are born with this aware nature, and they're still going to do the same thing. They're still going to go to the normal schools, but they're not going to have the same unconsciousness. They're going to come into the world awake, and they're going to be here to teach people. And this doesn't mean for everyone, but there will be more and more, humans that are born into the consciousness versus like learning what consciousness is. And so I really hold on to that, because I go, how beautiful. And I feel this way about my daughter in many ways. She's only 12, but I feel like she's my teacher in many, many ways. And she's much wiser than I am in many ways. And so oftentimes I listen to her and I take it in and I go, well, if she's a taste of that, I go, wow, what's going to happen with, these children coming into the world, still in a normal education system, still living a normal life, doing the normal jobs, but just not blaming other people for their experiences, and being a lot more awake and a lot more accepting and unconditional love and compassion towards everyone without needing to learn. It's just like innate in them. And I think, oh, to have that, how beautiful would that be? How healing would that be? So,
What a wonderful world that is to think about, where
mm,
more people are awake and accepting and just willing to be themselves, right? Right from the get go.
mm,
I wonder if that has to do with the fact that there are more people that are awake or are starting to work on themselves and the world is more accepting. And so they're born into families or
mm,
with parents that have embodied that already.
mm. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Yeah.
That's a really cool thought. Okay. Well, let's talk about embodiment and nervous system regulation. How do you explain these things to your clients, first off? And then, because I know before I started doing the work, I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like. Like when my nervous system was all going crazy because I was finally letting myself sit and like listen to my body, I was like, what is going on? This is really scary.
Mm,
So talk to me about like, what does regulation look like and what does it really mean?
mm. Nervous system regulation means slow down. That's the easiest way to say it. Like, and especially I work with a lot of women. They're very strong in their masculine. It's beautiful. We have the feminine and we have the masculine. The masculine is beautiful, okay? But the masculine is the doing and the moving and and if we look at like masculinity and testosterone, it's consistent. They were born for the 9 to 5. They're born for the consistency. And women are not. They don't have consistent hormones all day, 30 days in a month. It just doesn't happen. So to slow down the nervous system, you got to slow down. You got to see the month as their seasons. You're going through seasons every month, and it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in menopause or you're past menopause or you're peri or wherever you're at. As women, we're going through these cycles, and to slow down the nervous system, you got to slow down. And women are not willing to just stop down because they're gonna afraid that shit is gonna hit the fan. And the truth is that when you slow down, there's so much healing and wisdom and inspiration and joy that comes from it. But the fear is driving that nervous system response, which is the doing. And the doing is an excuse for not feeling. We're doing more and more and more to avoid what we're really feeling, which is like, I don't really feel fulfilled, or this is what I really want to do, but I don't believe I can do it, or I don't trust the universe that that is going to be provided for me. So the first thing is with the client is I just teach them how to stop and feel everything, not just some things. Literally make a list of everything that triggers you throughout the day, and then at the end of the day go and feel every single one until you're done feeling them all, and then get in a habit of just feeling it all. So I think that's the first step is you got to slow down, and you got to notice where you're bypassing through busyness, through mothering, through working, through whatever it is that you're doing, that you're not, slowing down. And then the second thing is when saying about, well, like, what is embodiment, or how do you teach people embodiment? I feel like many people live in their minds, and they think that information is integration, and it's not. Okay. So information is, you've got all the books on the shelf and you've read all the books, and if I say, well, tell me about chapter 6 in Joe Dispenza's book, and you go, I don't know. Like, and it's like, well, have you really integrated that information? Have you read it over and over and over through repetition, that you know it in your being? And so it's like, it's not embodiment is the moment that life goes, and you go, oh my gosh, like in yoga, because I teach yoga as well. It's like, I've just got it today. You were saying pull your left hip back. And finally I was like feeling how my hips are square. And it's like, yeah, babe, I've been saying that for 20 years. And it's like, but I got it. And it's like wonderful. That is embodiment. And sometimes it takes 20 years and sometimes it takes 2 months. We don't know, but it's that repetition of the practice of, can I feel all of life? Can I keep leaning towards that, what I want, that in which I want. Yeah. So for me, that's embodiment. It's the click, and it comes from the nervous system being soft, and that cannot happen when you're not slowing down, when you're moving at a pace that's fast. Yeah. It's how is there space for creativity when you're always busy doing, right? How does feminine energy rise within a human when she's so busy? Get in the Clarkins, get in that groceries, and then I gotta send this email, and I thought, do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh no, let's actually start creating. Let's slow down and realize it's safe to slow down. But I think the thing that keeps people from, women specifically, from slowing down is they're afraid. They're afraid that everything is going to fall apart. They're afraid that they're going to have to see themselves. They're afraid that they don't really like themselves. They will actually have to look at themselves. And for many people, that's super scary. And I get that. I get that. I was once there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I created this podcast, and everything that I'm doing is because you and I were sitting in the same seat at one point in time, staring in the mirror, wondering what was wrong with our lives, right?
Mm,
And like walking through this path, and I'm not going to say that I'm healed. I'm sure that it'll always be an ing. Um, but this process is so incredible because you're learning all of these new things about yourself on a daily basis. And I really do wish that that other 90% of people could feel what it feels like to finally start learning and being in your body, because it is something that I would never have guessed what it felt like.
mm,
Because when you're so stuck in the 9 to 5, like shooting off emails and trying to get everything done, you're in this constant state of burnout or survival mode. And that is what you know, like that's all you know.
mm.
And so obviously it feels really scary to go through the process of letting go because you don't know what's on the other side. But when you get there, man, it's a good place to be.
It is indeed.
So, how would you describe that sensation to people?
The sensation of embodiment, or the sensation, yeah.
Like being safe inside of your own body, and being able to trust that whatever the future holds or whatever is going to happen was meant for you.
I think with anything, it's repetition. It's over and over and over, and it's encoding new belief systems. So it's, as long as you're focused on your story and your past and the things that hurt you, you'll continue to see those things. And so it's really changing what you're looking at. And if you want to change your life, and if you want to, be leaning into that sense of trust and being in your body, you're encoding that every single day, and I don't mean just saying a mantra over and over again on repeat and not doing the work underneath the surface. I think it's important that, you get someone in your life who can really support you, that you resonate with, who lives a life that you want to live. I would say, like, if you're going to get a mentor, if you're going to get a coach, make sure they have what you want. Like, if they don't have what you want, you're not going down the right track. But find someone who lives that life. Yeah, that's something I want, and ask them, how did they do it? Find and then listen to what they say and do what they say. That's when the doing comes in. And so it's a rewiring of the neural connections. And when you come from trauma, or just even, and this can be like the smallest traumas, like, just little things that have happened, or negativity in a household, then it's like you've got to reprogram the way that you think about it. And that's through repetition. Like, you can't just do it once or twice. You've got to do it hundreds of thousands of times until you just know it, until, like, all of a sudden you're on the other side and you're like, whoa, and you don't even realize you're on the other side because it's now unconscious for you to be joyful or to feel embodied or to move slow, right? But that's a repetition thing. And I think that's a big thing missing in the self-help or the development world, is that people come in and they do these 3 months, 6 months, year-long courses, and then they stop after they're done. They don't repeat what they've learned over and over again. They go, that was really valuable, and now I'm ready for the next thing. And it's the repetition that ingrains it in the body, and then the body just knows, and then you don't even have to think about it. Then you move on to the next thing, right? But we want, wait, give me the 3 month, I'm done, I'm healed, I'm onward and outward, and then we go back to the old habits, right?
That's the crazy thing that we don't ever get, right? We want that quick fix.
Mhm.
And you have this expectation in your head, and it's so hard to rewrite those expectations because you see everyone else's life and you're like, well, I can have that. Let me just do this. I get that.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
I'm curious about the gene keys. I
Mhm.
was talk to me a little bit more about that. I know you were talking about 2026. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you would describe it, and then maybe we'll
Mm,
go on a tangent from there.
sure. Um, so, there's lots of modalities out there, and one of them is human design. And I know a lot of people know a lot about human design, which is based on astrology. So it's like, where is the sun? Where is the moon, Venus, and Mars? Where are all these planets at the moment that you're born, in the location that you're born? And Richard Rudd was the guy who created the gene keys, and he studied under Ra, who was the originator of human design. So he sat in his class for years and years and years, never took a note ever, just absorbed, really embodied what he was saying and took it on. Now, Richard Rudd felt like there were ways that you could access it that would be a little bit more direct, because he felt like with human design, it could be like quite generalized, like you're a manifestor or you're a generator, and then to understand your profile, it felt like quite deep and quite, so he was like, there's got to be an access point that's a bit quicker. So he combined human design with something called the I Ching, and the I Ching is called the Book of Changes. It's a Chinese book, and it's about like life changes. And this goes way back. So he took these two modalities. You could say it was like a divine download. He got all this information. It took him 20 years, I think, before he actually wrote the Gene Keys after having the information, because it was like, what? I'm meant to bring this to the world. And what it does is the Gene Keys, takes this, and then it tells you exactly what your shadow patterns are, exactly what your gifts are, and what your highest potential is. But it does it in 11 different keys. So it does it in all areas of your life. It's like, well, what is your life's work? Like, what is the thing that you're going to struggle with over and over and over again in your life? What is the shadow that undermines your body, like that will make you sick or cause tension? What do you attract in your relationship? What is relationships? What are your purpose? What are your defense patterns? How do you best succeed in life? Do you succeed in a small group, in a big group, in a one-to-one? And so there's three different parts to the sequence. There's your genius, like this is what you're here to bring to the world. This is what most people are going to know about you. And then there's the second part, which is all about your relationships. And this is really super deep, because it's the defense patterns that you've learned over your entire life, and it's the way you put up your walls. And then the third part is, how do you best prosper? And prosperity and abundance goes beyond money, but often when you look at that sequence, you'll see that way that people are making money is when they're in alignment, is through exactly what's being said. And you'll see these keys and you'll go, this is what I'm going to struggle with. And the moment I saw that key, I was like, oh, thank God, finally something is telling me, it's putting a word to what I've been experiencing for the last, 40 years of my life. This has been my experience. So it's very deep. And with shadows, when we turn, we can't see the shadow, it hides. And so this takes a word and it just shines a light right on it. And there's no hiding from that. You can't use anything to get around it. It's very sort of in your face. And the beautiful thing about it is, like, with the shadow, it's what brings you the gift, like it's what you require the shadow to have the gift, and the gift is something that you're here to bring the world and also here to heal for the world. So when you heal it, you're healing it for a lot of people. And so it's just this really beautiful system. It's deep and it is challenging to understand it, but you could still like, go, and I can give you the link to this. People can just go and download their profile and they can just read the 4 paragraphs, and you'll just be like, what? This is crazy that this is telling me the details of, and I've never had something be so accurate, okay, in terms of like reading human design or reading astrology, some different things. It just really opens my heart up because it's so deep, and also you change by observing the patterns. There's no to do. There's no like, okay, well now go and do this. Not, you just keep watching yourself in the shadow and you keep having compassion and love for yourself. And eventually it will move to the gift the more you can, watch it. And it's called the Gene Keys, GENE, because it changes your genetic code. So this is all based on amino acids. So he's looked at every single codon and worked out all these amino acids. I don't understand that part of it. I just like the real basic, like just tell me what the shadow and the gift are kind of thing. But this goes into detail so people who are scientists can go in and look at all these codons and see how when we shine the light on these, when we unlock DNA, more light comes into us. And at the end, you're enlightened. So enlightened just means more light in the cells. So I'm like, great, there's just more ways to feel lighter, So that's the gist of the Gene Keys.
I love this. And I also love how knowledgeable you are about this because I feel like you were able to say it to me like I was a 5-year-old and like can understand it, right?
Mm, mm,
I am so curious about this because I've done a birth chart before. I know it's probably semi similar
mhm.
where it just opened up a lot of things for me. So I'm very curious to see, you know, the things that are my patterns or like to recognize, oh, yeah, I'm not crazy or broken. This is just something that is a part of me that I have the ability to change.
Mm. Yeah, I do. You can go on and you can download the free profile, and I also do one-on-one readings with people. So if you read the profile and you go, there's a lot of numbers here I don't know, then exactly the way I'm talking to you is the way I talk to people. As I say, okay, we'll just start with this, this, and this, and just contemplate this for at least 6 months and go away and just be with this. And it can really start that process for people. And I like to do that. I like to make it accessible for people because sometimes you can look at charts or you can look at things and go, I don't know. And then we dismiss it because we don't know what to do with it, versus actually feel like it's an accessible system. But, yeah, in with what you're saying, when when you've read things and you've gone like, oh yeah, that was what Gene Keys was like such a relief for me because I've struggled for years with certain things. And I know these things about myself. And then to say that that was already sort of written, there was gonna be triggers in my life that would bring up what was already written. Oh, that's beautiful for me because then I can accept it. I am not trying to change it or fix it. I'm just going, okay, the more I can accept it, the more my life is going to change. Not trying to get rid of the shadow. We're just trying to like embrace the shadow so it can quickly transmute,
Okay. So, what do you feel like is the biggest thing that you've been able to overcome or understand from all of this for yourself?
There's probably 2 keys that are, I mean, look, all the keys are amazing, but the very first, the one that kind of tipped the scale for me was it was the shadow of entropy. And entropy is like a deep, almost depression, and it's like a downward spiral where the creative energy is completely stagnant. It's like there's no spark in life. It's kind of like a down energy. And I was like, okay, that is my life. Like I've always asked this question, like, was depression always going to be a part of my life? Is this just my lot in life? Or is it based on having, traumatic things in my childhood? But can I evolve past this? Or is this part of it? And it was interesting to see how life sort of mirrored that for me. And then when you move out of the entropy, you move into this this freshness. And then I can feel that and I can see that in me, that the things that when I go down maybe like a lull in my life where things can get a little bit heavier, it brings this freshness, this newness to everything that I've been experiencing. So now when I experience entropy, if I have moments, or now it's more so moments, it used to be months, or years of it. Now when I have the moments, I go like, oh, something fresh is coming. This is the process. Like I'm breathing into it. I'm allowing the freshness. So that was probably my biggest, turning point. And then my defense pattern, one of my defense patterns is seriousness. I can be so fucking serious, man. Like I am, I am classical serious. And when my heart is on the line, I get so serious. And so now I really have this, every time I get serious, I go, oh, Shauna, you're so good at being serious. Like you've got this. Like you are so great. And I have to smile and use that tone of voice because it breaks up the frequency for me, because it's when I feel defensive, that's what I do. And so it's just, for me, it's like knowing that as soon as that comes up, I go, I just ask the question, like, where am I feeling fear? Because shadow is just a fear pattern. Like, it's like I'm scared. So what am I afraid of right here? Like, am I afraid of being seen, or am I afraid that, like, am I feeling hurt, or what's happening? And so it's quite beautiful. So those two keys have been massive. I mean, all the keys have been amazing, like learning that, my intuition is one of my gifts, and in learning that people come to me for guidance is one of my gifts. And these are beautiful because I've always felt drawn to these things, and going, yes, my life aligns with this. So see, it's like a way of seeing how all these things are coming together. And it's like, yeah, I do feel an alignment. This is reinforcing where I'm at and where I have been. Yeah.
I loved how you were just saying that, and you kind of gave me goosebumps because I'm realizing that this is almost another form of self-love too, by understanding yourself enough and like continuing to be curious about how things are happening for you, and then just digging in. And instead of feeling guilt or shame about it, you're like, "Ooh, okay, I see you. I love this part of you. Now here's what we're going to do." And that is
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that.
So, I know that self trust is one of the biggest themes in your work as well. For a woman who winds up doubting herself a lot or overthinking everything, where does she even start to begin?
Make a decision. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but it is simple. Like, but she won't make a decision because she doesn't trust herself. But the way you learn how to trust yourself is you make a decision. See, a lot of women just won't make a decision. They just will talk to everyone about it and ask everyone's opinion, but they won't actually just make the decision. Just make a decision, and then let go of it being right or wrong or good or bad. I don't believe that things are right or wrong or good or bad. And this is the way I parent my children is I say, life is going to show you what it's going to show you. Okay. So I don't need to sit here and discipline you. Like the consequence, like life will show up for you. Don't worry. But you're not going to make a wrong decision. You're not going to make a right decision either. You're just going to make a decision, and life is going to show you, and it's going to continue to lead you in the direction that you're meant to go. Women that don't trust themselves, they don't just make a decision. Make a decision. Life will show you if that's the decision that it wants to take you on. Like they go, I don't know if I should do this or this. We'll choose one and do it. And then when you start doing it, you'll know if you want to continue doing it. And then if you don't want to do it, choose a different decision. And it's not that you made a wrong decision or that you made a bad decision. It's just that life is moving you in a different direction. So to learn to trust yourself, you've got to make a decision. Just choose. Doesn't matter what it is, and let go of all the stuff underneath. But I think that what I have to what I have to offer when I work with women is them feeling safe to make the decision. So a lot of what I do is I feel like I put the guardrails. I'm like this. I'm like, okay, you go and do life, and I'll just keep like we're just like it's a little bit of that. It's like I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here for you to make the decisions. And I'm just going to kind of go, okay, well, okay, so you're making that decision out of fear. So then let's break down, what are you afraid of? Is there some stuff we can clear out in the background? You know what I mean? So I think that's what is required is a decision. But I think that there's all the underlying unconscious stuff that needs to be dealt with. That's what I do is I have laser sharp intuition, and I can see where there's where we're missing something.
Mhm.
And then by the end of our work together, I guess I feel like women feel empowered to make their own decisions, to back themselves, to trust themselves, and to live a life that they love, whereas before they would have been like, I'm in this next chapter, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to start making some decisions. Whatever the fuck you want to do, we're going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like back in the times that I didn't know who I was, like had no identity and I had no opinions and I would outsource my truth or my, getting answers from everybody else. Like, I really wish I would have been able to trust myself back then and to just make a decision to pick me because I was always looking for people outside of me to love me, to tell me that I looked good, that I was doing a good job. And the more that that happened, the less that I was likely to go pick myself. And so the day that I didn't wind up having anybody else was the day that I had to pick myself. And that's when it started to turn around. And man, if only they taught you this stuff in school.
I wish. I really wish that, because if you don't have awake parents, how do you learn this stuff? You're an adult and you're basically rewinding, right?
And there are so many things I wish they taught us back in grade school, but hopefully there is somebody out there that is, going to start this for children or for teens at least, right?
That's it. Well, I think schools like Montessori schools, or what's the other one? Steiner schools, I think the philosophy, I think it's the Steiner school, Joseph Steiner, and his philosophy is that kids come with their cup full and we teach them how to empty their cup. We teach them how to not gain more, but we ask the teachers are always asking questions. So the kid goes, why is this? And then you ask the kid, well, why do you think it is? And you teach them to think outside of what the constraints of what your opinion is or what the idealism is, and that teaches them to be a creative thinker.
I love that concept. I was definitely in Montessori until grade 6, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, I wish that it would have been a high school program, Lincoln, Nebraska. It's too small for
Okay.
that, but
Okay.
I would be so curious. I'm so curious to see what happens in the next 20 years when more children are awake and we can see this changing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, talk to me about one thing that you'd like to have our listeners take away from our conversation today.
Oh, whatever resonates with you. I feel like we've gone a lot of different places today, which I love. I just love that kind of conversation with whatever kind of stands out to you. I guess I feel like this is a really important um, thing to share. You don't change your life by beating yourself up. You change your life by loving yourself. So, uh, you know, working with someone who can support you or backing yourself is one of the most loving things that you can possibly do for yourself. So keep being kind to yourself, because if you want to create a life that you love, that's full of joy and abundance and bliss and ecstasy, like if you really want that for your life, then you've got to come from a place, even with the healing, from love and compassion. You can't be mean to yourself and think that that is going to give you a life you love. It just won't work. And so, if that's your pattern, if you're listening to this and that's what you're doing, get curious about it. Right? Get curious about if the mental dialogue and if the beating yourself up is creating what you actually want in your life. And if it's not, find someone who has what you want and go ask them some questions. Start that conversation. Yeah.
I love that. So what I'll do is I will put the link to your website and your Instagram. Is there any other way for people to talk to you or to work with you?
Probably the easiest way. And, you're welcome to just send me an email, which I think is on my website. So yeah, just any way that feels right for whoever's reading the information.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I feel a little bit more enlightened.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Shauna, thank you so much for bringing your voice, your truth, and your grounded wisdom to this conversation. What I love about your work is how practical it is. It's not just theory, it's not just a concept, but real tools that bring women back into their bodies, back into their own power. So if today's conversation stirred something in you, if you felt the tug towards embodiment, self-trust, or rebuilding your nervous system from the ground up, this is exactly what we're exploring inside the Year of Becoming Circle. Our next Women's Circle is coming up next Wednesday, where we're diving into identity, the body's wisdom, and learning to treat ourselves as the authority in our own lives. You can sign up using the link in the show notes, or you can go to myhealingisyourhealing.com. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and remember, you were never meant to dim your light. Thanks for tuning in and being here, for healing out loud, and for walking this path beside me. If this episode cracked something open or helped you remember a part of yourself, pass it on and share it with someone you love. For more support, free resources, or the next steps to your journey, head over to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com. And if you loved today's conversation, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your words help this space grow and help more women find their way home to themselves. If I was your muse today, then my healing is your healing. Until next time.